Good evening, everyone. We'll start in a while. Raghu sir, are you there? Am I audible to you?
Ma'am, I'm there.
Okay. Am I audible, sir, clearly?
Good evening, Madhamati ma'am.
Can anybody confirm if I am audible and visible clearly?
Ma'am, you are audible, you are visible too.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Madhumati ma'am, good evening. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. So nice to see you again after very long.
Yeah, good to meet you after a long time.
Yeah. Raghu sir, shall we start or shall we wait for a while? Because right now we have 92 people in the
So,
meeting.
wait for 5 minutes, ma'am, with the permission of Madhamati ma'am. Madhamati ma'am, should we wait for 5 minutes?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Sir, I guess we can start. Meanwhile, we can introduce the speaker and people will keep on joining. What do you say?
Yeah, ma'am.
To 1:30 now.
Yes, we can start. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third day of International Virtual FDP organized by the Department of English, SR University, Warangal. Before I start the session, I would request all the participants to mute themselves while the session is going on to avoid any disturbance and distraction. I'm very happy to introduce our resource person for the day. We have Dr. Madhumati Pashupati. We have had the privilege of being associated with ma'am for many other events, and ma'am has always been very kind to grace any platform with the presence. Ma'am, we welcome you, and we take the privilege of introducing ma'am to our guests and listeners. The topic with which ma'am will be dealing today is writing proposal for research grant. Dr. Madhumati Pashupati has completed her PhD in 2013. Currently, she is working as Associate Professor and Head in the Department of English at Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development, Tamil Nadu. Madam is also serving as the Controller of Examination there. She's a well-known academician who has received 3 projects under the project grant of Impress scheme of ICSSR in 2019, an empirical research project in 2023, and MHRD funded project. Madam has also contributed and owns a copyright for 2 psychological tools related to ELG indexed by American Psychological Association in APA PsycTest database. She has published more than 35 research articles in national and international journals. Madam is also a well-known creative writer and has published a short story collection. Before working at her current institute, Madam was serving as an assistant professor in NIT Warangal, Department of Humanities and Sciences. And like I said, we have had multiple chances of working together in collaboration with Madhumati ma'am, and we have had this opportunity of getting her back with us after so long. And I'm very sure Madam's talk will give everybody an opportunity to learn and broaden the horizon of their knowledge. So I again welcome Madhumati ma'am on behalf of our university's management, Vice Chancellor, Dean, all heads, professors, all teaching and non-teaching staff. Ma'am, we are good to go. The platform is all yours.
Yes. Thanks for such a pleasant introduction about me, Ritika ma'am. So the topic for today is writing about research project grants. The very first thought of it that came into my mind was I just wanted to share my experiences and the effort that I have put on in writing various research projects, so that it will be useful and also meaningful for especially assistant professors who are into the process in the beginning of proposals. Actually, there are so many aspects to which we have to be aware of when we are writing a research proposal. So one major thing that we always look at it is like regular call for from DST and other ICSSRs. If it is engineering, mostly they apply for SERB. So initially to start with a SERB research project is a good idea to start. And then we have regular call for from DST and ICSSR. This is the major contributing source for regular proper funding from the government of India. Apart from that, we see that now and then there are various funding opportunities are available. And also we should know that when you are talking about proposal writing for a research grant, it is not only about doing a full-fledged major project or a minor project. There are various streams through which we receive projects. For example, sometimes in collaboration, we will be receiving call for projects, like a collaboration with Japan and India, collaboration with US, UK, and India, things like that. So we should also be ready for it. And sometimes we receive research grants as a fellowship. So a fellowship to visit abroad for a program or for a period of time. Okay. And there is also various aspects like PhD fellowship. You might have heard like Vishweshwara scheme, which has a PhD fellowship program scheme, like where you can, as a Department of Electronics and Engineering and IT, you can apply for asking for PhD scholars guidance from the government of India. So there are various purposes through which we write for a research grant. That keeping all these aspects into mind, and I'm going to present the paper, like my topic today. So I'll be touching on all the major sections of the research proposal. So whatever is the scheme or the program that you are interested in writing for a research grant, the major similarities that we see in all these proposal sections are highlighted in my talk today. So let me share my screen to you. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, it
Yeah,
is
okay.
clearly.
Yeah, so let me put on the slideshow. So writing proposal for research grant is a broad area of the talk today. And understanding the nature of the grant is what I was trying to like give an intro on. So whatever is the nature of the grant, as I was saying, it should have a clear introduction about the topic, overview about the topic, and you should understand the context in which a particular scheme is called for. So when you are clear about the context in which a particular research has been, called for, you can do a proper literature survey and literature review and understand whether you are, first of all, competent enough to find out a research problem and go ahead with your proposal. And the goals and objectives has to be clear when you are deciding on choosing for applying for a project research grant. So I would try to, I'll also show you some of the websites where you can actually, go in for such things. I have brought in here the various dimensions to it. One is the DST one, which you already know. Okay. So the other one is All India Council for Technical Education. They also call for grants in areas such as Atomic Energy Regulation Board, okay, Research and Nuclear Science, Council of Science and Industrial Research, and Department of Biotechnology. So they cover most of the engineering and sciences here. And other research fundings in collaboration with Korea and France and US is also available under this. And the second aspects related to it is like, you will be, see, during COVID-19, we know that there were so many call for is like suddenly came in related to vaccination and in biotechnology. So time bound call fors are also there. Like if you take for social sciences and humanities, there is something like National Council for Women, MHRD sponsored call for. These things are not regularly called. It's not like annual call for that we expect in ICSSR, but based on the requirement and results of various surveys across India, they will be highlighting the need for the projects, and then they will call for projects. So we should be keep on searching in our website so every month and call for proposals in social sciences or call for proposals in humanities. So we will know like as and when any new call for has come apart from DST or ICSSR. And yeah, in again in Department of Science and Technology, that is DST, there are various ways through which they call for proposal. There is one thing called Women Scientist Scheme. So it is meant only for the women scientists to apply for. And another aspect, that doubt that generally people ask me from humanities background, that are we eligible to apply for DST projects? Actually, no. In collaboration with a person who has completed his degree in engineering or sciences, we can apply as a qualification with humanities background. But we keeping it as a primary investigator, we are not having eligibility to apply for DST projects. That one fine clarification I wanted to bring into you all. And then in DST, to start with, I said it is better to go with the SERB fellowship. If you have not done any project, this is the first time you're going to start up with the new experience of doing a project. That is the place where everybody, try their hands first with any research proposal applications. And then DST is generally contribute many other schemes also, which will be sometimes, for 6 months, sometime it will be for 1 year, sometime it will be meant only for training aspects. Like they may need the particular faculty from a particular institute to give a training on certain topics, and only for that there will be call for. And there are Spark projects called for, as you know, where intercollaboration is, requirements are there. So such call fors also you can expect. And FIST is another one where you can expect such call fors. And why I'm showing all these databases is like so far, like whenever I have given a talk on such topics, the first thing that they ask for, like, what are the funding agencies that we can apply for? This is the first and foremost questions that I receive. So I thought, let me start the talk with that itself. So like creating awareness about what are the various types of research grants available and what you can apply for. So when it coming to Indian context, these are the popular ones that I have said. And in international context, it varies. Sometimes they collaborate with DST and then call for proposal. In that context, especially if you see the Japanese one, they collaborate with India, and there will be two applications that you collaborate somebody from Japan, and that is called as JSPS collaborative project. I'll show you that. Yeah, DST, JSPS. This most of them have applied for. So far, I have seen. Even this JSPS fellowship from Japan is available for science and humanities faculty as well. So in engineering, it is associated with DST. In science and humanities, is associated with ICSSR. So this particular scheme is sometimes it is calls for only for 6 months. Sometimes they call for 2 years. It depends on the nature of the call for. But then you see that you have an opportunity to go and stay in Japan for few months and then do your research. It depends on the nature of your proposal. So in this context, what you need to do is you have to apply through DST and also apply through JSPS. Both the ways that the collaborator that you are going to collaborate, they also should apply through JSPS, and then the things are generally processed. And see, this is the Vishweshwara scheme which I was talking to you. So this is also counted as a project, funded project. So if you ask me, like, if I do a research or you do an experiment or a diagnosis or some intervention, only then do we call it as a research project grant. It's exactly not so, but it is like you are writing a proposal for your department from the Department of Electronics and IT, and to guide or create PhD guidance opportunity for your department. And under the scheme you apply, and you receive funding around like minimum 1 crore to maximum I think 3 to 4 crores they sanction. Okay, so recent call for we have received in our institute also is about 1 crore, where you will be the initiator for the scheme of Vishweshwara PhD scheme under your department, and the scholars you can guide them by giving the fellowship of the government. So that is the beauty of it. But this is counted as a project under your credentials. It's not so when your sanctioning order is received also, it is counted as a project that you have received. And you see the Department of recent call for has come from DST. I thought I will show that to you. The deadline has also, I just missed the link, but you can try that. Just a few days back, there is a call for which has come from DST. So those are really interested and motivated in writing, you can start applying for it. Just 1 week back, a call for has come. And this particular aspect, yeah. So under research grants or funded research project, here you see from Science and Engineering Research Board, there are various schemes that they are calling for. core research grant, fund for industrial research engagement, empowerment and equity opportunity for excellence, SERP power research grant that is meant for the initial like stages of research, and intensification of research in high priority areas, startup research grant, mathematician research impact centric support. These are various domains of areas through which they grant funds. Apart from that, for psychology, they have something like um, specific for psychology people itself. So related to your departments, you may know, otherwise you can start searching, in a regular basis. Every month you will be coming to know such things in your specializations also. And another aspect that I wanted to show is like collaboration that you would like to make with foreign people. Like recently, Cambridge English has called for a project called for where AI and English language learning was the theme there. So it is having a scope for interdisciplinary research. And most of the time that we see right now, the call for us are focusing on interdisciplinary research or multidisciplinary research, because they are more towards solving a problem. It's not about, no more about understanding, elaborating, or describing, or interpreting alone. It is all about solving the problem that we are proposing itself. So in that context, more than one department, people involving in it is becoming a necessity. So that's why it is leading to multidisciplinary aspect of research. So generative AI, so here we see that people working in artificial intelligence, that is a kind of a specialized area in computer science. So not only computer scientists, but also people who are specialized in AI will be working in relation to English language teaching. Now you can ask me whether it is related to natural language processing or NLP. Okay, it is kind of related to NLP, but artificial intelligence is a separate area by itself. Okay, so under this scheme, we also see that they are giving the research topics for the study, that use of generative AI to augment or transfer language learning tasks, activities, and processes. Sustainability of generative AI for development of learning assessment tasks tailored to language learning, age and stage of learning, and implementation implications for learning and assessment context. So they are also giving topics in which they are focusing on for sanctioning the project. This happens in all the call for proposals that we see. They will give us clearly like what are the areas that they were interested in funding for their research. So that's why I'm saying in the very first slide that we need to be clear about first the nature of the grant that they have called for. What is the mandate that they are searching for? Who is going to be the beneficiary? Who is the stakeholder of this project that you are going to apply? Okay, and I would like to show you some other. This is the JSPS website from Japan. So this you can try. There is a regular call for every year. There is a call for from Japan for collaborative work, and many of my colleagues have received it. And you can very much, put your hands in it and try and see. It may work out. And next, we see that in biotechnology, the specialized call for thing is there. Similarly, for us also, in recently, I see that MHRD is also giving calling for projects, and then ICSSR, like it is like sometimes this particular call for is just for a 6 months short term call for, where they have clearly mentioned the areas of operation where they wanted to focus their research on. So in every call for, they will give a broad area of topic which they are focusing on. In some special call for research, they will clearly mention the objective of the area in which that you want you people to work on. So this is something like STARS, a call for which has come from Minister of Education recently. There again they've been focusing in a multidisciplinary areas, like you see photonics and quantum photonics. Most of you might have come across. Apart from that, in humanities also they have called for a proposal, and I saw that there is interdisciplinary nature, a lot of involved in it, like kind of integrating Indian knowledge system into psychology, Indian knowledge system into social sciences. So they've been the scheme which they called for project under Ministry of Education was focusing on the popularizing and understanding the Indian knowledge system itself. Okay, so keeping that in the loop, they have been calling for projects where even computers science people were also having a lot broader scope to apply for it, and humanities, psychology, applied psychology. So themes were versatile in nature, connecting to various disciplines. So we should be open for collaborating with people and work on. For further, like project call for are aiming towards such kind of research. Yeah, this is the scheme which I was talking to you about. So yeah, let me go through the proposal. Now that I have given you a clear idea on what are the natures of call for proposal, you have a broader idea now. So visit to a foreign institute, doing a research in collaboration with a foreign institute, calling for a training for a period of shorter term is also coming under research grant, and doing a full-fledged experimental work or diagnostic work or intervention work is also coming under research grant. Calling for a research PhD program and then taking a funding from government is also coming under research grant. So these are the various aspects that are involved in writing for a research grant. So all the topics that I'm going to explain further in this talk will be focusing on all these various aspects. So the sections of the project proposal, you see that most of the things, like see, generally when you go for a common DST proposal or for ICSSR proposal, you will be having a very common outline. Okay, like the area of research, what is the objective of your research, what's the discipline you are applying for, research question, methodology, literature review, and first literature review and then methodology. In which methodology they will ask about the relevance of research, what are the how it is going to contribute to the existing review of researchers, and these are the common aspects that you will see in DST and ICSSR project. Apart from that, I have added few components here to make it a kind of a coverable to various aspects of research proposal that I've been explaining to you right now. So first is the area of research, which will be clearly mentioned in the call for proposal. So they themselves will say that aspects of which that you need to focus. Okay, so you have to pick one correctly. Like in the AI and English language learning, if you're planning to do only on assessment aspects, then you have to mention the area of research as the assessments in English language assessment with AI. So, and then the framework and objective. The framework here is the objective is your aims that you wanted to do for your research. So what are the at least 2 to 3 aims you need to have that you wanted to work on. So in this context of AI coming with assessment, maybe we can think about creating an objective like we wanted to auto generative AI application for evaluating the answers of the students in a subjective examination. So so far, if you see in assessments, we have something like multiple choice questions that you click on it and automatically you will get the results. That is naturally available. But an inbuilt application of AI is required for evaluating descriptive answers, for evaluating open-ended answers. So such applications are not yet available. Are widely used only in rare cases. In few institutes such applications they're developing. Okay, and so that's one scope for the research itself. So the objective can be that, and then you can actually narrow down that to a particular subject. Like either if you are a computer scientist, then you can talk about computer science subject, and if you are a chemical engineer, then you can only talk about chemical engineering, because I have seen, I have met a professor who has got a project in this area in chemical engineering. And so his idea is that he's collaborating it with computer scientists on an AI application in chemical engineering subjects. If a student is writing an answer in a descriptive manner, so what are the aspects that that has to be prototyped in the AI application, so that the answers will be evaluated by the AI itself, the open-ended, even it be a paragraph answer or a full-length 2 to 3 pages of answers given by the student. So why that is important? Narrow dining is very important when you are going for objective framing, because one common solution for every department is not possible. So as we are dealing with English language, we know the terminologies or the words that are used or vocabulary usage for every discipline is different. The terminologies that are used in medical sciences and nursing is completely different from the terminologies that we use in novels, novel reading, or text reading. And the terms and vocabularies they use in the school of law is definitely different from the terms that they're using in a medical science. So every subject has its own way of communicating the information. And coming to mathematics and computer science as a subject itself, you see that the way the codes or sine theta, cos theta, everything means different things. So it means different aspects. So when you are applying an AI, then you need to be careful about which subject you are using and what are the things. Like for chemical engineering, all the chemical terminologies and what titanium is indicating, a short form of titanium or a mercury or things like that. So subject to subject only we can do a research in a period of a given time. So narrow downing a topic is very much important. So when a call for is there, there will be a general overview of the topic given, but narrow down topic is the talent that you need to have to identify exactly where is the research gap and which application will be suitable for us. And then research question. Coming to the research questions, see, there is something called triangulation, which is popularly, we use when it comes to research, um, proposal writing or any research, PhD research for that matter. What is the important triangulation that we see is the objective of your topic, the objective of your program. Let us say if it is a PhD student, the objective of their proposal should be matched with the research question, and the research question and the objective should be matched with the research outcome. So if the triangle is meeting properly, what you are aiming as your research objective, is it matching with the research question that you are proposed? And finally, when you talk about the outcome of your research proposal, is the two that you are mentioning is mapping or correlating with the research outcome. This is what we call as triangulation, where you get a clarity on your own assumptions as well, that what you propose as an objective is what you are testing also. What you test and what you propose as the objective is what you are getting as a result also. Sometimes people will say an objective as something, they will ask some other objective in the research question, and the outcome will be completely different from what they are supposed to experiment itself. So in that case, the project will be rejected. So this is where most of them they go wrong when they are developing a proposal. So you should have the clarity on creating a triangulation of these basic three things, like objective, research question, and research outcome. So, and coming to the research methodology. So there are, when you talk about research methodology, there are three major sections that you need to talk. First is the data collection and the procedure, that what method or a procedure that you're going to, data collection you're going to do. And second is the methodology that you are adapting for carry out, for going for your research, like the instruments that are going to use. For example, if I wanted to assess the the ratio of child labor, or in engineering for that matter, you wanted to evaluate the corrosion level of a metal in mechanical engineering for that matter, you will have your own set of experiments, right? So there will be sometimes as a standardized experiment available that you will be using it, and sometimes you will create your own research design. Sometimes for us the standardized questionnaire is already available, we used to use that for data collection, or we used to create our own standardized questionnaire. So this is what is the instruments that we use. And so in the data collection, we need to talk about the participants that are going to be in your study, if it is a science and humanities research. If it is going to be an engineering one, in the data collection, you need to talk about the primary data and the secondary data that you are going to collect for your experimentation. And coming to the instruments used, in the instruments used, you should talk about the instruments or the experimental setup that you are going to do, or the labs that you are going to visit for further researching on the objective that you have chosen. If it in the science and humanities, we used to talk about the questionnaire that we are going to use, interview methods or survey methods that we are going to use in the methodology section. Then followed by that, we see that we also talk about the protocols involved in taking an ethical clearance for conducting a test. So I see mostly in psychology and sciences, biosciences, this kind of ethical approval is required for every 6 months in their research. So that is what is practiced in most of the institutes. So that kind of ethical clearance, or when you are using a questionnaire for your data collection in a psychology, you need to get the credentials by using the questionnaire, the licensing in a proper manner by paying money, or if it is a free one, then you should check whether we can use it freely without taking licensing. You should be very careful about the licensing terms of using your thing. Similarly, in engineering, when you wanted to collect the data, you need to take prior approval from the labs whether they are going to help you in taking forward your experiment in their lab, because most of the times the facilities, all the facilities that you need may not be there in the institute that you are working on. Even that is the case with NIT, then imagine about private universities and institute. Infrastructure is not up to the mark. Sometimes you need to, not sometimes, many times you need to go to various labs for completing your experiments. So first you need to take an approval from them, like just writing a proposal alone will do. Like further to go on with the experiment, whether you have a good contacts with them and you can proceed with it. So such things are discussed in the research methodology. And what type of analysis that you are going to use is the third segment of methodology. So first is data collection and procedure. Second, you talk about the instrument and the legal permissions that you take. And the third aspect of the methodology is you talk about the analysis that that you are going to use. That is purely depends on your subject that you have chosen. So if we are in science and humanities, social sciences and humanities, we use statistical packages like SPSS or ACAS to do the qualitative and quantitative data analysis. So in that way, you will in engineering also you will have your specific analysis that you need to talk about that in the third as a third aspect of the methodology. And you should also see that the sample design, what is going to be your sample design, sample size, coverage of response, and other stakeholders requirement. So what is basically a primary data and the secondary data? Secondary data or the data that are already existing in the repositories. So there are basically some government websites like data repository for a directory of information repositories one by government of India, where you will be getting most of the secondary datas, orders or issued will be uploaded. So, and also even in our RGNIYD, if you go that our institute is mostly meant for youth development. So we annually conduct a youth development survey, and we publish a book on youth index. So every year we are publishing a report on youth index in all over India. So these are the secondary data repositories. So if you go for a specific institutes, they're working on such themes, then you will be able to get the data for across India from various states. And when you work on it, you may get a proper research gap to address for generating a primary data and work on yourself. So when you will have also a clarity on what should be generated from your side as a primary data. Sometimes we waste our time collecting primary data thinking that this particular data is not available, but most of the time secondary data are not well researched. So you need to be careful about that. And such mentioning of that secondary data availability also in the proposal will add the merit of the proposal, because these are already published data. And when you add the value, when you say that this is a particular data that I'm referring, and based on that I'm going to propose this experiment, or based on this I'm going to propose my research, that adds the merit to, and people also will have a clarity on where you are heading to and whether you will be able to complete your work on time. So yeah, that kind of literature surveying not only means reading the reviews of literature, but also understanding the data that is already available. Then primary survey methodology, as I was saying, these are the aspects related to primary survey methodology and methods of sample selection. So who is going to be the universe of your study and how are you going to work on this? Okay. And as I said, that you should narrow down your work mostly. So when you're proposing an area of research and then objective, then and there you are narrow downing your area to which aspect that you're. Like I said, that you wanted to only evaluate the answers written by a chemical engineering student through AI application, and that is your narrow down application. So now your methods of sample selection also will be the student who are studying chemical engineering. Now again, chemical engineering doesn't mean that all the 4 years of chemical engineering. Some subjects, you are not going to experiment with all the subjects of chemical engineering. Again, you need to narrow it down and say that 1 or 2 subjects. And for this particular subject, and I'm going to bring an automation or a generative AI application to evaluate the descriptive answer. So that much of narrow downing is important. So that your study will be finished on time and people also will believe that this work that you're proposing is kind of a finishable work. And the questionnaire schedule and focus group discussion, these are terminologies that we use in social sciences research. So a questionnaire is basically used during survey method. Focus group discussion is needed for some sensitive issues and issues that demands much complex situations. Where focus group, a kind of example that I wanted to give for focus group discussion is we see in television that people bringing in various parties, where people were sitting in both the sides and one side will support on something, another side will be against that. But it is not like a debate. In debate, only three people will be sitting maximum and they will be talking to each other. But this focus group is like more number of people will be involved in it, like a round table, and then all their opinions will be argued and counter argued, a discussion will be arrived. Because when it is come to sensitive aspects, it is always better to open for a broader way of discussions. So it is a kind of interviewing only, but in a broader manner, where the victimized or the victim is not the only person whom we are talking about. Here we will have in focus group discussion people from various aspects related to the objective. Like if you are going to talk about the a percentage of rapes that are happening in a particular place in a country, then you need to call upon people, those who are in and around related to it, a journalist, those who are working on this news preparation of this, and the victim and the victimized. Okay. And you will also talk about some lawyer will be there, some doctor will be there to give us explanation about the psychotic conditions. A psychologist may be there, and the public will be there, common youths might be there. So this participants of focus group will be from various categories. So this is what is called as focus group discussion, and it's a nice way to experience this kind of discussion, so that you can come out to a common consensus. We will know the various aspects of problems that been dealt in relation to rape issues, not only the victimized and the victims. And we can also say the pilot testing. See, here I have mentioned pilot testing of interview schedule. But in general, when you are doing an experiment in engineering context also, you need to test it with a smaller element in a small um, form. That is what is pilot testing, like an rehearsal to go forward with the grand research work. So with the minimum participants, with limited number of expenditure, we would try and see that effect, how much it is reflecting. But then again, um, the number of participants involved should be at least 100. But I see many people are doing it with like 10 or 20, and they call it as a longitudinal study and things like that. But longitudinal studies, pilot testing is not required, because they are dissecting the aspect of the research into bits and pieces, and they are working on it. But then if it is going to be a regular study of qualitative and quantitative analysis, then minimum of 100 sample for pilot testing is recommended to come out with a proper understanding of the scale that you have developed. Okay. And then you should be also able to mark down on the limitations and the mitigation strategies that you have encountered in your study. So limitation is generally like how you can overcome the limitations. In that way, you should represent in your proposal. It's not that there is a limitation, but still I compromise on this limitation and I'll try to do whatever possible is not the idea here. Like how will you overcome the limitations that you have been experiencing in this process? So that has to be there. So if you ask me that do I need to have a prior experience in the area which I'm working on? Absolutely, yes. You should have at least produced one or two papers in the related area in which you are applying for, initially when you are applying for a project. So you have not done any project so far, and this is going to be your first research project proposal, then it is good for you to work on the area that you have worked in your PhD, or you are confident enough where you have your publications. So that will be showing as a stand for you to make yourself strongly, represent in front of the panel when you are appearing for a interview during your project call for. So when you apply for a project and then if you are selected or shortlisted, you will be called for a presentation. So when you're called for a presentation, they will be asking these things. Okay, so when you need to have some proof to show them that yes, you are already competent in working in this area. So naturally, what is the support that you can show them is, of course, your publications. Apart from that, I also see people doing pilot study before going in for the project proposal application itself. So because it involves a minimum funding, you can yourself go for the pilot testing and then generate a data, and you can run a prototype. In computer science, you know that a prototype you run, and then you go there with the presentation and you show the prototype in a smaller scale, and that will be convincing for them to say that okay, this is what can be applied in the major scale also. So pilot testing before applying the research project may help in that context. Or once you have received the project, like one or two projects, and then when you wanted to change your area of research and then you apply, then that is fine, because people understand that you know how to do a research project and you have completed it successfully. So when you are proposing a multidisciplinary area with proper collaborator who was already experienced in that discipline that you wanted to collaborate, the chances of acceptance is high. But initially, first time you are writing with a new idea and multidisciplinary and everybody is new, then you need to have a proof either as a form of a pilot testing analysis report or a publication in that area. So this kind of explanation that I wanted to give for each. So this is basically the general frame work or a requirement that you need to fulfill while writing a research project proposal. Apart from that, what will be there is only budget, okay, and the conclusion section. Okay, so in the budget section, like as I said, that the specifications will be clearly mentioned by the agency which they are calling for itself. Let me show one as a sample to you now. So this is a recent call for from ICSSR on empirical research, which is open for everyone, not only for faculty or academician, researchers, scholar, independent NGOs, and everybody. So they have given the topics for which that you are interested in applying for. And the proposal to study any of the scheme and policies are given. Okay, type of study. You see that individual study and collaborative study. What I would like to notice you in this is, in every call for the procedures for application is same, only minor changes used to be there, and you should be carefully noting down that. In this call for, we see under collaborative study, they have clearly mentioned the terms of researcher, including the project coordinator, would be termed as the project director. So this is something different from the usual call for that they do. So generally, whenever there is a call for, there will be a principal director and then there will be a co-principal director. That is PI and co-PI. Same applied to DST projects also. But in this particular project, when they called for, they said the team of researchers, including the project coordinator, will be termed as project director. So if you're coordinating with 4 to 6 researchers, they have said that up to 4 to 6 researchers we can collaborate, and everybody will be called as project directors when the project is sanctioned, which means everybody is principal investigator, PI. So which is something new, which I noticed in this call for. So we should be carefully reading every time. Okay, every time I am reading it, so same thing is not the thing that we are taking it for granted. No, you need to read it in detail. And they give the clarity on, like, okay, if it's a collaborative project, it should be minimum of 2,000 to 3,000 data collected, and the maximum award of money can be within 30 lakhs. And similarly, for individual projects also, they have given that it is 6 lakhs as a research grant carry out, and minimum of 400 to 500 samples that you need to collect. Okay. So the eligibility also they have discussed very clearly here, and how to apply, all details are there. So we should strictly follow to their instruction. If there is anything little bit that we are not fitting to their requirement, or we are not doing it properly or manipulating here and there, definitely you will not be given a project. And they will also say that while you are applying for a project grant, you need to authenticate yourself with proper ID proofs of Aadhaar card and all. So they just check your details with the help of your Aadhaar number and all that. So you should be careful enough in following the norms given by them in a careful manner. So here, just that's the reason why I just opened this file to explain you how to create a funding budget for your research project grant, and that purely depends on the agency that you are applying for. So the one related to AI, I was talking with Cambridge University. They were also giving the clear demarcation of how much money we can sanction for what head in the same manner, but the amount was mentioned in the euros. Here in the Indian context, they are talking to us in percentage wise in terms of rupees. So any budget head will have these things. Even international projects, when you apply for, the same requirement is there. Only the terms may change here and there. As I notice in international applications, we see that equipment for study, this equipment and field work is sometimes, clubbed. So research staff is generally the people that you hire for this project to work under you. So that, and salaries related to them, and daily laborers, or some additional people that you are conducting a workshop, you are calling for a guest talk, and payment for the guest talk and all that is coming under research staff. So whenever there is a remuneration for the human effort, and that comes under this section of research staffs, and it is limited to 40% of the budget sanction. So if it is, you have, in case you have received a project for 10 lakhs and 40% of the money is reserved for research staff, and you cannot exceed that amount in the project that you're carrying forward. And then coming to field work. Field work covers actually TA, DA, logistics, boarding, and printing and all these things, printing charges for your surveys, everything is covered under the field work. So, but that should not exceed 30%. And then we see, if you wanted to conduct a workshop, and that can be 15% of the sanctioned amount, maximum of 2 lakhs they have given. There is a cap in it. And then experimental and study materials. So here, computer, printer, whatever you wanted to, equipment that you wanted to purchase for the research, that is a ceiling of 10%. Like you can purchase a laptop, printer, and then, desktop, softwares, journals, books, data sets, especially when you are working with some standardized questionnaires, and you can use these things for that. But thing is, like, whatever you generally purchase out of the research funds, it goes to the institute or to the funding agency itself at the end. You cannot take it as your property or as you own it. So whatever purchases that you're making through this project grant, that will be either finally submitted to the institute where you work on, or these funders have every right to take those things back, even including the books that you purchase. And we see then contingency is 5%. In contingency, like anything that cannot be accommodated in the above 4 sections, like starting from research staff, field work, you know, uh, equipment and study material, you can cover it under contingency. And institutional overhead charges, that this particular amount is given to the institute. So if you have got a 10 lakhs project and you are working on it and you have successfully completed, 10 lakhs plus 7% of overhead charges will be given to your institute. So most of them, when they write their research proposal, they come with a doubt. I used to get many calls, people asking me now, should this overhead charges be included in the project budget, which I have been suggesting, or in addition to the project budget, I should also give the overhead charges. Actually, it should be, if you are writing a project proposal and the budget of the project proposal is coming as, 15 lakhs, let us assume. And apart from that 50 lakhs, an additional of overhead charges you should write. So 15 lakhs plus overhead charges, that is how it is counted. So when you are doing your research after receiving the grant from my side also, I did the same, like you need to account for 10 lakhs and produce the proper SOE to, that is statement of expenditure. That is what we call it as statement of expenditure to the institute and the project funder. And seeing and verifying that, they will be sending the institutional overhead charges to the institute. And this is generally sent as a kind of acknowledgement for the institute for giving an office space for the RAs and using the facilities, furnitures there. Kind of a rent, you can say. Okay. So the institute is giving a space for the RAs to be seated in, and you can ask for the institute for such additional things. So those things are also paid through overhead charges. So it is in addition to the budget that you are proposing. And they also give a clear capping on how much you can pay for research associates. Same thing, it applies to DST, and also when you're applying to foreign institutes for collaboration, and from call from British Council or any other foreign, like National Science Academy. I saw recently there was a call for social sciences and general sciences. So such things, they give a clear capping on how much can be paid for each category that you are proposing. Like for field investigator, how much money you can get. Recently, ICSSR has actually revised their field investigation charges from 15,000 to 13,000, 30,000 per month for field investigator. It was just 15,000, and they have doubled the money that they are paying for field investigator. But there are not much of a difference in research assistants pay. But of course, there is a hike in research associates pay as well. And any instrument that you are using, you need to give a proper, it's okay, you can say a computer, you want a printer, and you want this book. For everything, you need to give a proper explanation of why you need it. So here it is not visible when you are applying in the online portal, because most of the project call firs are now, they are asking us to apply through in the online mode. So you go to the portal, below that there will be a column asking for the reason for utilizing it also. So you should know, like, okay, computer is required for analyzing the data collection, or recording the data collection or something like that. Printer is required for printing the questionnaire that we are developing. So there should be a reason for, it's not that out of the plume, which is not connected to the project, you cannot purchase. It should be connected to the nature of the project that you are applying. So in the equipments, they should be clearly explaining, this instrument I wanted to purchase for this particular reason that I wanted to use in the project. So it should be like that. So when you apply itself, they will be giving a clear data on what are the things, like completing of the project, how guidelines will be clearly mentioned. You should read all that before applying. And you have a format for research proposal, all the sample application form, everything is attached. I have downloaded one sample application form to show you that how it looks like. So this is an individual study which they have given a format which is already there on the website. For DST also you will find such things. So here in the general call for, they wouldn't have given you with this much clarity. Okay, but when you go start in for applying, you will be able to see this kind of categories existing. So first the name of the project director, and you are supposed to write the title of the research proposal, and then an abstract should be written of 300 words. And when they mean 300 words, it is exactly 300 words, because in the online portal when you are applying, more than 300 words you won't be able to type at all. So you should be very much precise in your statement. Be precise in your statement when you're applying. Introduction of the proposed study, approximately there should be a 400 words, and then major research works reviewed. And this is something notable, and you should be very much put in your effort into. So there are two sections that they'll be asking for when it comes to literature surveying. Literature survey in international and national level. So whether in the engineering, science, or humanities research, the particular work that you are proposing to do, how many people have worked in national level, how many people have worked in international level. You should have a complete idea. In that, in the past 5 years, how many popular publications has come in, reputed publications with high impact journal, or people have cited a particular paper a lot in the past 5 years in that area. That kind of a paper has to be summarized in this segment. So international, see, this helps us, this actually helps the proposal evaluator to understand your in-depth understanding about the work that you are proposing. So you need to have a thorough reading of the topic that you have chosen. And when it comes to engineering, what exactly happens was, when you are clear about the international paper publications and the national level works, they have a clarity on which lab that you have to approach. You know that. So it is like the evaluator knows that you will be approaching the right people for your experimentation. So a segment of your work can be done in your place, and the next segment, if you want to approach to maybe an IIT or some other, ICSIR institutes, but you will exactly know where you have to approach, because the papers that you have surveyed are giving such relevant informations to you. So you will be doing the experiment in a proper manner. That guaranteed aspect is there. So this segment of literature surveying is very important, and minimum of, and they have said not less than 15 to 20 important works. Okay, which means for international papers also you need to quote at least 15 authors papers, and then for national level also you should quote at least 15 authors. So, and those will be most cited ones or reputed journals which has been published in the recent 5 years, not beyond that. Okay, if it is a seminal paper in your area, you can mention that, because of the concept clarity of the construct that you are going to use. So a concept clarity and the conceptual framework that you wanted to explain, or the theoretical framework that you wanted to explain, for that you can quote seminal papers. That is fine. But when it comes to experimentation, what kind of methodology that you are going to use, what kind of laboratory experiments that you are planning, for those things, recent 5 years, what kind of work has been dealt in your proposed area of grant is exactly what you need to know. And then identification of research gap. So yes, once you are clear with your literature survey, then you will be able to find out the research gap properly, and you need to talk about the research gap, and then objectivity of the proposed topic. So you need to talk about the objectives, the aims of your work, and then a hypothesis. A hypothesis, the assumed statement of your work. You can talk about that in detail, and then the proposed methodology for your research. So all these answers you will be easily able to get from the research papers that you have surveyed, that you have been surveying so far. So that will be a great resource and help for you to build on these aspects. And then the sample size for the research study. The sample size for the research study, as I said, that some people, they already mentioned what they want here, they have mentioned, but some people you have to mention. But as I say, that it should be, it's always advisable to go for a quantifiable amount of data collection. As I said, like for pilot study itself, 100 is required for running the statistical package. Then you will know to run your own uh, packages, softwares, what can be the amount of data that you generate for your analysis to be giving proper results as you expect. So that is very important. So you want your outcome of your study in this manner, and for that outcome, how much data I need to generate. That is purely depends on your own understanding of your subject. So based on that, you can give the sample size for your research study. And innovation path breaking aspect of the proposed study. So this is another important aspect. Um, okay, so now I am proposing an idea. And when you're proposing an idea, why do you want somebody to fund for it? Basically, there are two aspects that they will see as a key element. First is like how innovative is the idea that you are proposed. Is it really new? Is it really novel? Are you really contributing something unique? Okay, that is one thing. And the second thing is, okay, this seems to be innovative and novel, whether it is relevant and immediately applicable in the society. Okay, so you may be talking about cars that they fly in the air. Okay, but immediate relevancy of that is also needed. Whether such research is needed now, so, and whether it is possible to do it now. So the evaluators also will be quite experienced. So when they are sending your research proposal, minimum of 2 evaluators will review your research grant proposal for the grant sanctioning. So they will see these aspects, the innovativeness and authenticity of the proposal that you are seeing, how novel it is. And they will also evaluate the relevance of it, whether it is immediately needed for the current applications or not. If it is going to be not relevant, also the chances of getting the project is less. And if it is going to be somewhere not immediately, but soon, like maybe after many years, even then the chances of acceptance is low. And expected outcomes such as books and yeah. So now I have given you the fund. Now what is going to be your exact outcome? So outcome will be your research analysis, of course, and your findings. Apart from that, how many research papers are you going to publish? What kind of data repository that you are going to submit to the concerned authority? And whatever data that you generate should be properly recorded, and all the proofs should be submitted. So you may be working on research papers now. You are already a PhD holders. When you are submitting your papers for research publication in international and reputed journals, sometimes they ask for the data sets while reviewing some journals. Not many are asking, but when you are submitting for a research proposal, they will definitely ask you to give all the data sets that you have collected so far for the study, so that they keep it as a repository. And they will be cross verifying your findings with the earlier researches that they have funded and your existing work. So you cannot take it lightly. You cannot say something out of the line from the existing research. You should be very carefully analyzing your work, the existing research finding, whether it is coinciding and correlating with your proposed research idea, because that will be also be checked. Okay, and details of the data set to be generated. Okay, as that's what that is, they are very keen on the data that you give. For example, as I was telling, this empirical research call from ICSSR, they are very much keen on uh, knowing the advantages of the schemes that they have been funded through Government of India to the public. So the data sets that you give is very, very important for them to compile everything. All, like for example, they have sanctioned more than 500 projects under empirical research that came in the newspapers and everywhere. You might be aware, most of you might have been aware of this. So this 400 plus projects, their data, everything, they will be compiling it, and they may be coming up with one document for making a policy decisions or some amendments in the government. So we may not be sure. Their purpose we may not know, but these data sets are considered to be the authentic, valid data to them. So we should be very careful in generating this data, while analyzing this data, and then while submitting this data to the government as per the repository. So relevance of the proposed study for this society. As I said, yeah, the innovativeness and the relevance for the society will be definitely judged and evaluated by the reviewer. And the statements that you make should be clearly explained here. As I said, that matching with your objective research question, your relevance of the proposed study is actually the outcome that you are talking about. You will not ask them, see, there will not be directly a question asking you to type on, like, okay, talk about your outcome of the study. Nobody can say the outcome of the research before doing it. They can only assume. So how they will judge your outcome is only through the innovativeness that you are proposing and through the relevance that you are saying, and along with your literature survey. They will be judging you on that, and then they say, okay, their objective, their research question, the hypothesis which they are talking is all, matching in one sync with their relevance of the proposed study. So that is how they judge your outcome, and they map it and they evaluate. And the most important thing, and as next to the innovativeness of your proposal, the second most important thing that you need to focus on in your study is the milestone set for each month. Okay, so here it is 6 months because it's a 6 months project. But if it is 2 years project, if it's a 1 year project, even JSPS, they're calling for 3 months sometimes. So you need to segregate the task that you're going to do in your research project as in a timeline. So sometimes you can talk about it in every month. Sometimes if it is going to be a 2 years project or a 3 years projects of T8 DST, then you can club these things. Like for example, 3 months I'll be doing a literature survey. Okay, 3 months I'll be finalizing the questionnaire or the tests that I'm going to conduct. And then next 3 months you are going to take proper ethical clearance and approval and contact the labs for going ahead with the experiment and forming the research design. And the next 3 months, I'm going to start my research experiment in the concerned laboratory. And the next 3 months, you talk about your data collection through your experiment or the survey method that you have adopted. And after that, the next 3 months, you can keep it for the analysis of your work. And then further, you can talk about from analysis to, writing a journal articles, publishing, or because once you are got your data, and then it's time for you to start working on a paper and publishing, and then start writing your report. And then finally, you can talk about your research report writing. So this is how you need to segregate your timeline. So when you're any research proposal for that matter, whether it is a national or international call for, the clarity on your timeline is very important, and you should strictly follow to it. And there will be emails and regular checks from the funder regarding your timeline, whether the timeline that you have mentioned and the timeline that you are existingly practicing at in your study is matching or not will be definitely checked. So you should put your mind in focus and think and plan so that you stick to whatever you suggest in your proposal. And then total expenditure, as I was showing you the budget, so you can talk about, they give a space for budget. So here the total amount is alone mentioned, and then you see that the heads of expenditure for and they are asking in a very defined manner. You see how many people you wanted to take. Field investigator in the sense how many. Okay, you wanted to take a research associate, how many? 1 or 2. And how many months you want to recruit them. What is the amount that you are going to pay them in months, and then total. So months into the amount calculated will become the amount. And then field work. Here number is not the thing, but months is a matter. As you are mentioning in the time frame, maybe you are devoting 3 months or 6 months for your data, field work, data collection. Then you can talk about that months here, and during that months alone, you will be needing an assistant or a field investigator for your study, right? So that can be calculated and the amount can be given. So the timeline that you are suggesting and the time and the number and the months that you are suggesting in the budget should be matching, should be matched. before you should cross verify it, whether it is matching and it is okay, parallelly well. And instrument purchase and all, here they're talking about months, but it's not about months, it's about like which segment of your study you wanted to purchase that equipment. Okay, and these are the things that you need to be careful when you are finalizing a topic. As I said, right, when I was giving you an explanation about the budget, I also told you that you need to give justification for all the heads of the budget. That is there when wherever you apply. So they are giving one particular segment separately, asking you for justification of different heads of budget. So you need to talk about your research stuff. Okay, why you need 2 people, why you need 2 research associates, why you need 3 field investigators. You need to give a justification. You need to show them enough workload. Okay, I need 3 because this much of workload is there. You need to divide and show that in possibility of 2-3 months, these many people will be needed for doing this much of work. Only then it is sanctionable, right? And then the field work. You also need to talk about the instrument, as I said, or you need a desktop or a computer or want to purchase a software or a book also. Why it is so? Like you are a chemical engineer and you're working on a chemical engineering topic, but you wanted to purchase a book from medical science, but you need to give a justification whether that medical science book is relevant for your project that you wanted to work on. So that is how it is. Okay. And if not in detail, while applying for the project, not necessary to give a detailed explanation of all your expenditure in the budget head. A precise statement will do, but when you are in case you have got, let's assume that I got a project and I wanted to spend the money at that time, I need to give a very brief explanation for these things. So I should have the clarity when I'm applying itself for the project. So these are the general segments that you should be aware of when you are applying for the project. Now it's almost time. I'll quickly wrap my presentation in. I have not even started my presentation, as I see, but I will quickly move on through the slide. So whatever is essential for requirement for your application, I'm already talking those things in detail because this is where you generally get doubts. Whatever information which I am going to present to you now in the slides, even if you can watch some videos or refer in some Google, you will be able to get the information. But the information which I have shared to you earlier, right now in this talk, or something which is not told in most of the presentations related to project funding. So that's why I thought I will give a good amount of time in that. And methods, as I said, okay, these are some examples which I have come up with. So like, for example, if your area of research is something like environmental studies, and there is a call for in the DST currently right now related to river water and air pollution or something like that. So if you wanted to work on the environmental studies and then that is the area of your research and the framework that you want, kind of is like you wanted to, this particular paper I've got it from Springer where they talk about the metal depositions and concentration of the liquid in Narmada river beds. So they have analyzed the water in the river beds of river Narmada, and they have given their reports. So in monsoon, the concentration is different. When there is no monsoon, the concentration of the water is different. And they also talk about the dissolvable metals or undissolvable metals that are being induced into the river through the various industries that are available nearby. So this becomes the problem of your study. So not that every time you need to have a research gap. If you see a problem in your nearby surrounding, that can also become your research gap for your study. Means basically the purpose for your study is met with the problem that you encounter in the nearby places itself. So here this is the problem of industrial waste getting, merged with the river Narmada and the high concentration of metals that are dissolving in the water. So now, when you're planning to work on an interdisciplinary aspect, I also came across a paper where they are talking about metals that can be used for the recycling system. So of course it is important. We have so many projects that we have seen across India and also in world, especially Ganga. We know the Ganga river recycling project was quite successful, and it been implemented in various sections of the river beds of Ganga and Brahmaputra. And we so the aspect here is that how suitable are the metals that are being used in creating this recycling system. There's one project that I've been seeing, recently, which been granted. See, basically the recycling system that they use in the riverbed has got aluminium and few such metals. Okay, the durability and the corrosion aspect of it is being tested, but we also see that the pollution levels of the water been increasing, and the nature of the dissolvable minerals and metals that are merging in the river is also varying over the years. So the recycling thing that we've been installing, recycling system that we've been installing with certain metals may not be working out right now. So as a mechanical engineer who is working in welding or in material studies, it is your problem that you encounter now to increase the life of the metal or the material that you are going to use in the recycling system. So now you see the problem that I have taken up is something different from the usual interaction that I gave related to this topic. I started giving an idea about environmental studies, which is broader in nature. You never understood that I am a mechanical engineer, that I am going to propose on metals that can be used during recycling, isn't it? And I also talked about the mineral depositions, the various compositions of the pollutions that have been, that is mixing with the water. So we need to have a complete understanding about the chemical components and that the minerals that are being diluted into the river. So we need definitely a chemist or a chemical engineer or a person from chemistry to work with us in this, and a person from geology to understand the nature of the place of Narmada river or riverbed or whatever riverbed that you are taking, that the very nature of the river, to understand that a geologist will be a great help. And then you as a mechanical engineer, with their help of their observation and analysis, you will be able to understand what are the components that is actually disturbing the recycling system that is being created. So with all this understanding, you will be giving a suggestion of an alloy or a metal or a material. So I just wanted to give in the clarity in this, because alloys are different. They cannot be said directly as a metal. Okay. And the metals are also, what are the metals, like starting from gold, silver, and all that. And materials here, I mean, sometimes plastics can also be used. But then how are we going to weld them with the metals or other aspects that we are going to use is what they wanted to work on. So they will be doing an immense research on the composites and the um, kind of mineral mixed issues of pollutions in the river, and then they will be trying those things on the metals they are choosing, and then they will be coming out with the solution of which particular metal or a material can be used in the recycling system. So that is the exact area of the work itself. Okay, but you need to know a broader idea of all these things. That is why I was saying that doing a broader literature review is important to understand the exact problem, and then you convince your readers saying that these are the things which is involving a multidisciplinary angle, and then finally you, being a principal investigator, you are addressing the problem of research question asking only about the appropriate material that can be used in the recycling system. So the research question, that's what I have mentioned here. What is the reason for change of concentration in river during monsoon? What is the result of electrochemical corrosion analysis? Which metal is appropriate for using in recycling system of river water? So these are the research questions that I am forming. But to come out with this research question, I gave a very detailed understanding and an intro about the aspects related to it. And then That's why I said the objective that you propose, the research question that you are putting forth, and the expected outcome that you are talking should be mapped. So that is why you as a researcher also will be having a clarity that my work in this project is to only find out a material or a metal that is suitable for the recycle system. I'm nowhere going to get into the fully. I'm only understanding them to finalize the metal or the material. So that is what is triangulation, to bring in the clarity of your work. And that will be checked. So I think I have given a clear picture on how you have to narrow it down and how you have to address to various segments that are mentioned in your uh, research proposal. Now I'm going to talk about the general aspects that you should be careful about when you are writing a grant. Because as I said you before, I'm not only talking about a 2 years project or a 3 years project that you're going to get from DST or ICSSR. I initially showed you various platforms or different schemes or grants that are available. So the information which I'm going to state further in this talks are related to all these broader aspects. Okay. So first is the background details. So who is particular state or region you are going to work, the demography, the social, economical, and cultural aspects of the people that you are dealing with. You should know that when you are starting to work on it. And the second aspect that you need to know is the you know the sample design description, like how you are going to sample your like what is going to be the universe of the study and what methodology you are going to use for your study, the meta-analysis, the published reports, identification of saltwater, quantitative data collection, okay, data collected, scrutiny, tabulation, research tools, all these aspects you should focus on. Data analytics method, okay, in methodology section. Different methods of data collection can be like physical measurement, personal interview, mail inquiry, telephonic inquiry, online form. These are various forms of measurement and data collection. And mostly we need to go for the government sources for your secondary data collection, which I already talked to you before. And you need to go for an established published research articles. And general social groups and economic groups that have been available. So fund allocation and utilization aspects also, I have given a clear detailing related to that already to you. And coming to the findings and observations. So you need to have a clear, like when you say that the relevance of the study, the innovation aspect of it, and how much it is useful for policy decisions, then you need to have that how your findings and observations are also, you know, used. So you need to, represent your findings with the help of figures, graphs, and maps in a more creative manner, and so that it meets all the senses of the person to understand the detail that you've given in a much better manner. And the findings and observations that you're talking should have a relevance, as I said. So how relevant is the topic that we have proposed? Okay. So that, how are you going to judge that? The section should examine the extent to which the overall objective and the intent of the government scheme program has been and continue to relevant in terms of addressing existing and evaluating needs. So here I'm saying, like when they're giving a call for application, it says they have given you clearly what is their need. So from there itself, your search for relevance for your literature survey will start. Okay. And providing opportunities and establishing priorities in its various contexts is equally should be addressed. And how well does the selected scheme address the requirement of the community in relation to its local conditions and culture? Okay. So you say in the demographic details, I'm going to see only this Badaga community in Uti, one of the tribes. Okay. And then you need to be very clear about that this particular scheme through which how much, I can meet them, and how much I can collect data in local conditions and the culture of the people, and then see the relevance aspect of it when you are putting forth a proposal. And then the effectiveness of the study should be considered. These are the measures. Okay. If you ask me, you might not heard about this in most of your talks that you have seen in project proposal grants, but these are not directly related to writing or research project grants, but these are the essential aspects that you should keep as a check of a measure when you are writing a project. So relevance is a very important aspect that you need to consider. It should be the idea that you conceive should be relevant to the scheme of the call for research grant. And second is the effectiveness. So by effectiveness, I mean that how effective this is the idea that you have conceived. Okay. To access the extent with the objective of the scheme or program are realized with the respect to outcome and impact dimensions across socio-economical regional categories. So in the riverbed, as I was talking about, you can talk about the economic growth that we were getting in terms of industry, and also due to pollution, you can also do such analysis, right? So when the effectiveness, you see that, okay, because of the industry, also the GDP of the particular state or district may be improving, but again the damage that it creates for the district, whether it is considerable or is it's more than the GDP that the particular industry is generating for the district, is something question that we need to research, right? So the effectiveness aspect is it being sensible to what we are working with. So identify the constraints and examine how effectively these constraints have been addressed during the implementation of the scheme, illustrating the assessment with commercial profitability. Like I said here, the riverbed, the pollution in the river of Narmada, like by controlling it, how much profitable it will be for the people. It's only not for the farmers, but in the various perspectives can be analyzed and proposed in your research grant. So it's social viability, the cost benefits of it, and various applications that we can further use this water for, for the growth of the human life itself. So that is what is should be considered in terms of effectiveness. And then we see efficiency. Efficiency is like access resource utilization with respect to economic operational time. So efficiency, if you are working with an engineer, if you're an engineer and you're working on a project related to engineering, these aspects are very much important. Resource utilized in minimum cost. So for example, you wanted to work on the metal gold, and see that whether you can use it in rocket engineering. But the first aspect related to gold itself, it is very expensive. So what is the idea of working in the metal gold here? It's that itself is stopping the work to be progressing further, because it's not cost effective, right? So the economy of aspect of it, the efficiency, that's what we say, like, how will you judge the efficiency of the work that you proposed? You should see that in consideration to the economy related to that, operationally how much it is implementable and the time that it consumes. Based on this only, we evaluate the efficiency of the idea that you propose. So second is operational, like the duration of the time that you mention in your timeline. Okay, so based on the time that you propose, will you be able to complete this work that you have planned, will be judged. So if that is possible to be covered in this time, then you call it as efficiency. Okay. And equity. So equity is generally related to mostly to social sciences and humanities, and to certain extent to engineering faculty also. How far the study has tried to be fair to the different sections of the society. Okay. So how far the benefits have been reached to the beneficiaries, public, marginalized, vulnerable section of the society. So even in that case of riverbed issue, if you see that, as I said, that it is, if you think of reducing the pollution aspect of it only for the sake of farmers, then it is narrow-minded, right? It can be broader. You can even think of religious aspects related to it. Okay. Yes, of course, these will impact on the mental conditions of the people. It is, of course, a project funded for a mechanical engineer who is working in collaboration with a chemical engineer under an environmental science area and funded by DST or other engineering funding agencies. But the effect of it will be a greatly felt by the public, right? So in that context, the clearing up of riverbed will be, mostly in Ganga river, that for that matter, you see a lot of temples associated are in the banks of, or constructed in the banks of Ganga river. So the publics in terms of religious beliefs, and in terms of the increasing the fertile and flora and fauna aspect, and also we see that the utilization of the water for um, the regular lifestyle, okay, and people of marginalized, okay, there are homeless. So for those people, like how it is going to be meaningful, things like that. So this is what is called as equity, understanding the equity aspect of it, whether the work that I am doing, the reaching for maximum number of people or not. So efficiency is like whether the work that I am proposing is time bound, and is it possible to do in the specified time with the plan that I have been planning. But equity is whether the work that I am doing, whether it is benefiting maximum number of people or not, in various aspects, in broader way connected to it. And then we talk about the impact, outcome and the impact. You should think about it, because this will be reflected in your relevance and also in your innovation that you're talking about. So the outcome and the impact evaluation ascertain the net effect of the study. So finally, what is the net benefit, they say, no? The net benefit of somebody is giving you some 10 lakhs or is 1 crore. Finally, the net benefit of this is this. Okay, you gave me this money, I have done this. So your research objective, your research question, mapping to this, I have found the exact solution for the objective that I have proposed. That is the niche effect. Okay. So comparing outcomes to the baseline or in non-existence of baseline by estimating what would have occurred in the absence of the study. So this impact refers to the ultimate reach of this study, long-term results. It has economic, environmental, and social aspects also in it. Outcome and impact should be measured in terms of measurable outcomes, such as improvement of life quality and creation of sustainability, livelihood opportunities. So all these constraints should be there. This construct should be there in our mind when we are proposing any research work in science, engineering, and technology, because you might be aware of these things, but then I'm just putting it explicitly in my slide and making you remember this. So when you are planning for any work or research that you're proposing, you should think about the economy involved in it, environmental benefits, that it is not hazardous to the environment, and you should think about the societal aspects or benefits that the society or the people that they've been living, and you should also think about the profitability, whether it is measurable to see the profitability of implementation of my research, and the sustainability of this work. So you're proposing something new and it is workable, whether it is workable long time or not also should be explained clearly in the proposal that you are writing. So these things are important for everybody, those who are doing or proposing a research in science, engineering, and technology. And then, yeah, like I said, sustainability and monitoring mechanism. It should be, as I said, before doing the research, how will you able to know? We can do a focus group discussion, interviews, patents, already available patents. You can have a look at it. Feedbacks from the stakeholders also will help you to decide on these issues. And the issues, gaps in scheme of designing, limitations that are there, challenges that are there that you face. So all these thing, when you are doing a pilot study, you might have come across the limitations in your design. So with all these things that you will be able to understand. Identification of the best practice, case studies, okay, and earlier patents and researches will help you to understand the sustainability of the model that you are trying to propose. Okay, and the continuous mechanism that can be implemented in the long time basis. So basically, the recommendations of your proposed study should cover up areas related to your short-term achievement, mid-term achievement, and long-term achievements. So a higher priority of recommendation is required. Okay. So whether it is a thematic study or a sectoral study, okay, you need to sectoral, I mean, it is related to a place or a aspect of your discipline engineering. Okay. Whatever it is, but you need to know that immediate benefit out of it and long-term benefit out of it. Okay. So the recommendations related to immediate application of the work, middle applications of the work, and long-term applications of the work can also be mentioned so that people will know that after a continuation of your research can also be followed up. So it will show that you are in line with the existing research that is happening, and the funder also will have a confidence that it is going to be a continuous work. It is not the work that you are finishing is the end of the solution for it, but there is a continuation to improvement and further research in this area which you are proposing as your idea. So with that, I just wanted to conclude my talk for today. Thank you for listening to me with patience.
Ritika ma'am?
So am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for delivering such a detailed lecture on how to write a research proposal. I felt like I was not only listening to a session, I was like almost, it was like almost a very quick guide, a very well-stepped guide. And I'm pretty sure all the budding researchers here were a part of our program, feeling very benefited out of your talk. You were tirelessly talking and talking, and I learned a lot from you, ma'am, today, and I'm pretty sure this is true about everybody who's a part of the session. I would now like to inform the participants that the session is open for questions. If Madhumati ma'am is ready for a few. Ma'am, would you like to take a few questions?
Sure.
Yeah, so participants, if you have any questions, kindly raise your hand so that we will be able to unmute you and take a few questions. We have close to 10 minutes for questions.
Lavanya ma'am.
Yeah, Ms. Lavanya, if you have a question, kindly unmute yourself and ask. Ms. Lavanya, am I audible to you? You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Am I audible now?
Yes, Ms.
Yeah,
Lavanya.
earlier it was mentioning that it was mentioned there that the host hasn't unmuted. Thank you. Dr. Madhumati, thank God I didn't miss. I was rushing home actually. I was wondering I was missing, and I had my doubts because I heard 2-3 versions of this proposal writing, but the thorough way that you did, though I'm a senior faculty, it's so good, so good. Thank you very much. This is going to be a great help to my own scholars and others also, my project proposals. And one thing. And the other thing, it was such a shock for me that you are a mechanical engineer. My only worry
I'm
is
not a mechanical engineer. I just quoted is I am a faculty in the Department of English, and I'm specialized in English language teaching, ma'am.
Oh my. And you did such a great job on the mechanical engineering project. I'm so thoroughly happy.
Yes, that was
The
actually I was teaching PhD scholars in NIT Warangal for past 5 years on research writing and all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember me. I've been there. You were young faculty there who joined, but I was there in NIT Warangal with Keshwara Garu's
Oh, yes,
celebration.
yes.
So good to see you here. So clear and everything. The only thing is, you were talking about the Cambridge proposals and all. Why is it that we don't have any project funding for literature areas? Because in English, usually, though I know NIT is very particular about only ELT, why is it? Isn't that humanities a thought process and psychological and emotion related? Why are we removing that part totally? Are there any resources for that also? Project funding centers
Yeah,
for
thanks for
literature
asking
studies.
such a nice question, ma'am. Such a nice question. Actually, I wanted to answer for this. The thing is, as I understand, when there is an money involved here in
Mm,
terms of research proposal and grants, they are much focusing on the relevance of the study, and they are focusing on the multidisciplinary aspect of it. See, when you are talking about literature and we do a survey on a literature related to geology, let us assume that you are going to study the texts that are published about various eras, and you are going to analyze on it, and you are going to give your contribution and observation to a geologist. There is 100% chance of you to get a project, ma'am. Okay.
mhm,
But you are going to talk about a writer who has written a poem, and you are
mhm,
going to suggest your own outcome of the poem as your solution. And where is the relevance of application? To whom are you going to apply this? So the matter, the exact focus is in that. Okay. So how much is the work that I am doing is useful for the society and for the immediate applications of the society?
Okay.
Based on that only the acceptance rate is there. Okay, fine. Now coming to literature, people only think literature as something like doing works with novels or poems. No, you see that now we see humanities related researches are extended to industries because the
Mm,
sustainability aspect of it, mental conditions of the employee, all these things are also related. So we cannot propose a topic directly as a literature proposal, but we have to work in a multidisciplinary area where we can combine with industry and see that people working in that industry, what kind of a quality life they are living and how their mental ability is contributing to the growth of the industry and the location there, because mostly people they work in that particular industry, they stay nearby to the industry, so they
mhm,
create the pool of life near the industry, and
mhm,
how it is helping them to lead their life and things like that will
mhm.
be generally funded.
Okay. I get that point. But when you said, like, I just want to further clarity, extend it if with the permission of the host and the host team. As no, I'm not talking about
Yeah, there is
poems.
nothing
Even
like this particular area is high or this particular area is low, but the immediate relevance of application is what is important when it comes to receiving a
because when we
fund.
talk about, there's a lot of turbulence related to culture and understanding and impact. We keep going backward and forward, especially when we talk about literature. Novel reading is not just a
The
story
language
reading.
itself, it becomes a part of culture, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
you see in the
yeah.
post-colonial context,
Ah,
we see that language has a power to,
yes.
extend the culture. So the use of language itself can be studied and how it is
Okay.
impacting the cultural life of the people.
Yeah, that's what I said. So we'll have to search for funding organizations or who fund specifically these areas. Thank you very much, and so proud to see you here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I see another hand raised from Ms. Barkha Bhatia. Ms. Barkha, you can unmute and ask your question, please.
Okay, sure, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am,
Evening.
my question to you is that what is the difference between funds, if we are writing for a private research university or journal, or and between the government research grants? Like, what is the difference between funds?
I don't see much difference in the funding, ma'am, but I see a lot of cross-checking. Cross-checking, like when you go for Cambridge University and British Council projects, every 1 month, every 3 months, they sit with you and they see what you're working. And I feel we are more controlled and they are tuning us to work on their requirement a lot. But when you go for government funding, I feel a lot of liberty is there on the researcher side. Of course, you should be careful about the ethical standards and issues. Apart from that, I see a lot of freedom is there. In both the funding aspect, I would say that um, in the industry side, the product is actually more important. Okay, so whenever you're proposing, even the Cambridge University one, they are combining with the AI and English language. Okay, And they talk about finally the end product is going to be some tool which will identify the descriptive answer. So that is their target. The funding, if it meets the product requirement, then there is no restrictions on the fund that you are receiving in private.
I guess that answers the question. I see another hand raised from Mr. Chandrasekhar. So please unmute yourself and ask your question if you have one. Mr. Chandrasekhar, am I audible to you? Kindly unmute. Okay,
Yes.
so we'll take another question from Ms. Joshna. I see a hand raised from Ms. Josna Krishnan. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. Actually, whatever the previously there was a discussion which I have already I think this literature related research, if you go with the theater studies or if you go with a culture related study of any literary work, I think funding is more. So I just wanted to know what is your take on that point.
Of course, see, I've been teaching students here the English, and I encourage them to work on folklores, okay, and creating in the process of documentation. So there are many languages that is not yet documented. So these researchers are coming under NLP, Natural Language Processing. So if you say that in as part of linguistics and in connection to NLP, you are going to work on the cultural aspects, definitely there is a chance of receiving funding. That's what I'm saying, like purely on literature alone, if you are applying, the chances are less, because the implications, finally what are you trying to do? So here when you are applying with in a literature, you are talking about the theatrical performances or a particular genre of dance, like Mohiniyattam for that matter, the ornament that is used in the dance, this dance steps that are used, costumes, everything in connection. You can make a document ready which is not told or prepared, then that kind of for book generation or report generation or document generation, fundings are there.
Yeah, actually, I would like to tell my personal experience also, because I am basically doing the research connected with culture studies. So I got a SARC cultural funding, which is connected with the art form and the gender issues. So that way, I think if you could connect with an interdisciplinary genre, I think it will be like literature has still a scope.
Yes, because see, if you see I think you are a Malayali, because the way you address the question itself, I could get. See, this particular aspect of Mohiniyattam, which I was talking, is very much related to women. You know that way. In the same way, there are certain dance forms related to the transgender and the story narrations of that. I see that kind of cultural aspects of art forms are very much prevalent in Kerala, and I really appreciate it, but those works are not much studied, you see. So of course such works are important. When we see literature, these are also the areas that we can actually work on, and definitely we receive funding, like as you said that you received a spark project, but in relation to gender, isn't it? So that's what we should be multidisciplinary in our thinking.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And you are right. Yes.
I'm not sure, but I see a hand raised from somebody called Vice Principal. Sir, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question if you have one? I can't see your name here, only your designation. So if you have a question, you are free to unmute and ask your question. Okay, so I think with this, we come to an end of the session. I will be posting feedback link in the chat box. Before I do that, ma'am, thank you so much for enlightening us. It was such an interesting, engaging session. I thank you on behalf of all the participants, Department of English, organizing team, School of Sciences, and our whole university. We would love to have you back again for another session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. It was nice seeing you after a long time, Ritika, and I also communicate my warm wishes to all the faculty in Department of English. Okay. And thank you all for listening to me patiently, and I wish you wholeheartedly to receive project and of your own in your own discipline and flourish well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Feedback link is already posted in the chat box.
I'm leaving, Ritika.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you for being with us, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm sure participants are able to see the feedback link in the chat box.
And could you please resend it once again?
Sir, give me a minute. There is some technical issue on my end. Please give me a minute.
Shall I do that otherwise?
Yeah. Please go ahead, sir. There is some glitch on my end. I'm not sure what is it though. Yeah, the link is reposted. I hope you all can find it in the chat box now. Sorry for the confusion. I think there was some technical glitch on my part, so I can post it. Yeah, it's posted twice now. I hope nobody has any issue with the feedback form. Please fill it before you leave the session. Miss Angela is asking if she can leave the meeting. Yes, those who are done with the filling of the feedback form may leave. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this FDP and today's session especially. I hope you all enjoyed the session as much as I did and we did. Thank you. See you all again tomorrow. Raghu sir, can I close it now?
Let us wait for 5 minutes.
It has come down to
7.
70. So yeah, I guess everybody is able to do it. We have 2 more minutes for the session, I guess. It will be 8:30 in 2 minutes, and then we can close, I guess.
Dear participants, after filling the form, actually, please leave the meeting. So we have already shared the link. Could you please fill it? Now, after filling the form, please leave the group.